I'm sure all of you are familiar with Alex and his work and his many successes in film, but let me just give you a brief bio. Alex was born outside of Liverpool on December 15th, 1954.
I want birthday cards.
He studied at Wirral Grammar School, Worcester College, Oxford and Bristol Universities, and UCLA. His latest film, Searchers, is featured in this year's festival, DC Independent Film Festival, and premiered on Thursday in its U.S. premiere here at the film festival. Mr. Cox is also known for Repo Man, and a film he wrote and directed in 1983, Sid and Nancy, a film he co-wrote in 1984 and directed in 1985, Straight to Hell, which received the Critics' Prize at the Madrid Festival, and the screenplay Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which he co-wrote with Todd Davies, among many other film projects. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry. Please forgive me for being late. So I don't really have any kind of structure because I don't even really know what a masterclass is supposed to be. So I thought it might be best if there are people here who are filmmakers or aspirant filmmakers or people who have specific issues about some aspect of filmmaking or production or distribution or writing that you want to talk about or want to discuss or ask me questions about that I might be able to answer. Maybe that's the best way to start it off, is to find out what you guys are doing and what your interests are. Would that be a sensible way to approach this? Because I can sit here and just tell you about anecdotes and stuff, but it might be more. There might be some more people are looking for. So maybe should we do it like that? I mean, does anybody have anything on their mind that they want to say or discuss or want me to talk about? Some aspect of production or distribution?
I think that the process of getting your writing submitted and approved is probably changing dramatically these days, and you're in that world. Could you speak to that, the changes in the process of getting a script seen, getting it picked up, getting it actually made into a film? Are there changes with the rights that are happening that you've experienced?
Well, those are two different things, aren't they? Because the rights is one thing, and getting your script made is another thing. I mean, rights issues would only become an issue initially if the screenplay that you were writing was based on original material by somebody else. If the author's been dead for 95 years or more, you might be in luck, and it might be in the public domain. Otherwise, you're going to have to deal with the person who originally wrote the material, although not always. Because if, for example, you're making a film about a character, a real person, it isn't necessarily the case that you have to go and get the rights to a certain book about that person. Say you were going to make a film about Dick Cheney. I mean, I imagine there's several books and articles about Cheney that talk about him in quite a lot of detail. And if you were going to make a film about him or some aspect of his career or life, you could delve into all those books and take elements from them because they're factual elements. And as long as you didn't rely too much on one specific source, you would be, I think that fair use would cover you in terms of being able to write a screenplay. Because I've done that a couple of times with, say with Sid Vicious film, because although both he and Nancy Spungen were dead, their families were still alive. There were various articles that had been written about Vicious, including a piece by Lester Bangs called A Tale of Two Patsies. Nancy's mother had written a book, and so we would delve into the kind of the factual material about that pair, but not to such an extent that we were dependent on any one source. So in that sense, I think that's the rights, that addresses the rights issue. Now, there's a separate rights issue when you take your film to a studio, say, or to a producer, because if suppose you did that, suppose you got involved with somebody who wanted to make your film, they would, even if it was an independent, it was me, whoever it was, whether it was a studio or an individual, they would want you to assign the rights to them, because there's nothing worse than raising money for a film and then discovering you don't have the underlying rights. And we've been in Todd and I were in a situation like that when we had been flown to Halifax, Nova Scotia to do a cop movie. And we'd been there for a week with the production designer, and you know, Todd had rewritten the script. We were scouting locations, and then the producers discovered they didn't own the underlying rights to the property, and the project just fell apart, and we all flew home. So these are important issues. You know, you do have to be clear that the project you're making, you do own the rights to it. Indeed. And one way you can tell the difference between a real independent film and a Hollywood independent film is the music. Because a Hollywood independent film will have a great soundtrack. It'll have all of this licensed music from, you know, the Righteous Brothers and Isaac Hayes and the Clash and everything, you know. And a real independent film can't afford anything. So all the music in a real independent film will be original and written specifically for the filmmaker. So actually, in a way, by going that route, you're actually creating work for a composer, for musicians, for the engineer. But if you go the Tarantino way and you just license a bunch of Morricone music off another film, nobody gets any work. You know, Morricone doesn't need that money. So in effect, you're kind of contributing to the detriment of creativity and to the atrophy of a creative industry by merely licensing things that have gone before. But that's a personal opinion. But in any case, yes, so all those licensing issues are important. Now, in terms of what you said about taking the script to a studio, I don't know. There are sometimes they make you sign little agreements and waivers and stuff. I'm not altogether sure if you should do that. I know it puts you in a difficult position because if you won't sign a waiver, they might not even read the script. But if you sign a waiver and then they make a film that's suspiciously like yours, you may not have any recourse. It would be a case-by-case issue, but it is something I don't really like that. I've never directed a commercial, but I went to a meeting to direct a commercial one time, and they made me sign a non-disclosure agreement before the meeting. And I felt really weird about it because I also felt that in a way, if I come up or give these guys any ideas, I've kind of assigned away something here that maybe I shouldn't have done, you know. And anyway, it never came about, so it wasn't an issue. But I would be a little bit wary of that. Although it's a difficult position to be in because you want to get your material read, you know. So I think that's just something you have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. And really, it's always the same thing. I mean, some people say you should write a treatment first. Sometimes, you know, studios love treatments and things, but I've never found a treatment to be of any use at all, really. A short synopsis might be a good idea, and certainly as an individual writer, you will do a breakdown. You'll do this, my first act, second act, third act, whatever. You'll break it down in a certain way. But the kind of again, doing a treatment, doing a big, long 20-page treatment, when a screenplay is only 90 pages, it's a kind of atrophied way of working. It's not very helpful. So I would avoid treatments, unless you find them useful.